Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into the abstract, absolute brilliance of Plato's theories to figure out how ancient philosophy actually holds the key to our very own internal harmony. We're going to explore the ideas packed into his most famous, and let's be honest, probably his most influential dialogue, the Republic. What we're looking for here is a master blueprint. It's a design that maps out both the intricate, messy workings of the human mind and the massive, overarching structure of a perfectly just state. By the time we wrap up, you're going to see exactly why these ancient ideas are still so profoundly relevant to the way we live our lives right now. Okay, so let's get right into it by starting with a deeply provocative human dilemma straight out of Plato's text. It's a challenge that kind of forces us to look squarely in the mirror at our own temptations. Imagine, just for a second, you had a magic ring that made you invisible. You could commit literally any crime without ever getting caught. The question is, even if we know what goodness or justice is, if you could completely get away with being unjust and actually profit immensely from it, why on earth should you choose to act justly? It's a heavy question, right? And it cuts straight to the core of human nature. To answer that, here is our roadmap. We're going to take a journey inward to understand the individual, and then scale all the way outward to see how those exact same elements construct a perfectly functioning society. We'll start with number 1, the dilemma of justice. Number 2, the real versus ideal world. 3, the anatomy of the soul. 4, the 4 cardinal virtues. And finally, number 5, the ideal just state. All right, section 1, the dilemma of justice. Let's start on the micro level and really examine the profound consequences of the moral choices we make every single day. Plato argues that the unjust life isn't actually a good deal at all. It's an exhausting, relentless battle of unsatisfied desires. An unjust person is essentially trapped in this deeply unsatisfying state of internal discord. Think of it like trying to fill a bucket that has a giant hole in the bottom. You are constantly scrambling to overcome discomfort and cravings, but you never actually achieve anything more than a temporary, fleeting absence of want. It is a stressful, profoundly unhappy way to exist. Conversely, the just life operates in a state of peaceful, rational harmony. The soul of the just person is governed by reason, which leads to the highest and most lasting pleasures. And Plato notes that those pleasures actually come from intellectual speculation and the genuine pursuit of true knowledge. Moving on to section 2, the real versus ideal world. To truly understand this governance of reason we just talked about, we first need to grasp what Plato considered to be the ultimate truth. You see, Plato argued that true knowledge isn't just about memorizing particular everyday facts. It's way bigger than that. It's about knowing something general that is universally common to all cases. If you want to understand if ethics are universal, you have to understand the universal idea of goodness itself. He called this the form of the good. Now, this isn't some physical object you can go out and touch. It's a perfect, eternal, changeless entity existing completely outside our concepts of space and time. It's the ultimate source of truth, and it illuminates human understanding in the exact same way the sun illuminates the physical world around us. Now, here's where things get really fascinating, because this perspective on knowledge is what fundamentally divided Plato from his own teacher, Socrates. Think of the real world, the one you and I exist in right now, as variable, subjective, and constantly bound by time and space. Basically, everything here is an imperfect copy. But the ideal world, that is absolute, perfect, and unchanging. While Socrates believed knowledge came primarily from human reasoning and back-and-forth dialogue, Plato insisted no, we actually have to look past our basic earthly reasoning. We have to look to this external, eternal ideal world to truly capture the absolute nature of goodness. Which brings us to section 3, anatomy of the soul. Let's bring all these high-level philosophical concepts back down to earth for a minute and reflect on our own internal battles. According to Plato, every single human being is made up of 3 distinct elements, and these parts have to be carefully managed if you want to avoid that awful state of internal discord we talked about earlier. First, you've got the element of passion or emotion. This is what drives our competitive nature and our need for honor. Second, we have the spirited or dynamic element, which covers our basic physical will and bodily desires. And finally, sitting right at the very top, is the rational or philosophical intellect. Plato actually likened this whole setup to a chariot. Reason is the charioteer, desperately trying to steer 2 powerful, wild, and very different horses. When these 3 act in harmony with reason firmly holding the reins, that is when true justice exists within the individual. Now for section 4, the 4 cardinal virtues. Let's see how taming that chariot translates into actionable values when those internal elements are properly controlled. Now, this is an absolutely crucial pivot point for us. It turns out that the exact same virtues that create a balanced human soul are literally the building blocks of a functional society. It's an incredible parallel. The virtues of temperance, courage, and wisdom stack up beautifully, just like a pyramid, and they directly align with the social classes of artisans, guardians, and rulers. And running right alongside all of them, binding the whole thing together, is justice, which in this context just means everyone is performing their proper duties. It's a seamless transition from the micro-individual to the macro society. So let's break these down real quick. First, temperance. This is your self-regulation. It protects against excess and keeps conflicting desires in check. Next is courage, which is the bravery and spirit you need to actually remove obstacles in the pursuit of justice. Then you have prudence, or wisdom. This is the right reason that guides and regulates all those other virtues. And lastly, justice, the supreme human virtue, the harmonious result of the first three working together, making a person self-consistent and fundamentally good. And a really important note here, Plato and Aristotle argued for something called the unity of virtues, meaning you can't just pick and choose. You can't possess one of these cardinal virtues in isolation. You have to have them all working together as a package deal. And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, the ideal just state. We are zooming all the way out now from the individual to the macro level, looking at Plato's model of society as a giant healthy organism. Just like the three parts of the human soul we just covered, Plato argued that the state needs to be divided into three distinct classes, and critically, they have to stick to their specific roles without stepping on each other's toes, all for the benefit of the whole organism. First are producers, the farmers, artisans, and merchants. They are bound by temperance. Then the auxiliary, our soldiers and security personnel. They have to embody the unwavering spirit of courage. And at the top, the guardians, the rulers, they absolutely must possess the deep virtue of reason and wisdom. For society to survive and thrive, each class has to do its job. Because think about it, if a merchant suddenly tries to be a military general or a soldier decides to be the ruler, the entire organism basically falls into total chaos. So what does this all mean for society? Well, true social consciousness and happiness really rely on three main pillars. First, you absolutely need seamless teamwork between the philosopher-kings, the guardians, and the common people. Second, equality, and by that, Plato meant treating everyone according to basic fairness and their inherent aptitudes. And third, leadership simply must be held by an enlightened philosopher-king, why an absolutely non-negotiable qualification to ensure long-term justice for everyone. Now, because Plato fundamentally believed the human soul is immortal, he concluded that living a just life ensures the greatest rewards and absolute internal harmony, no matter what your earthly situation is. He argued that even if a remarkably just person lives in total poverty or suffers from a terrible illness in this physical life, the gods certainly aren't going to neglect them in the next. Justice, for Plato, isn't just some arbitrary rule invented by politicians. It's the ultimate eternal alignment of your soul. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to really ponder today. In a modern world that is just full of noise, temptation, and constant discord, are you actually letting reason govern your life? And looking around, does our society reflect anything close to this ancient blueprint for justice? It's a lot to think about. Thank you so much for exploring Plato's magnificent architecture of the soul and state with me. Keep reflecting and keep seeking that internal harmony.